Just sharing my screen. Give me a second. There you go.
Thank you very much. Okay, so this is chapter 2, text 64 of Bhagavad Gita. Okay, so we'll just read the verse. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Ragadvesha vimuktestu vishayan indriyescharan atmavasher videyatma prasadam adigachati. But a person free from all attachment and aversion and able to control his senses through regulative principles of freedom can obtain the complete mercy of the Lord. It is already purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. It is already explained that one may externally control the senses by some artificial process, but unless the senses are engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord, there is every chance of a fall. Although the person in full Krishna consciousness may apparently be on the sensual plane, because of his being Krishna conscious, he has no attachment to sensual activities. The Krishna conscious person is concerned only with the satisfaction of Krishna and nothing else. Therefore, he is transcendental to all attachment and detachment. If Krishna wants, the devotee can do anything which is ordinarily undesirable. And if Krishna does not want, he shall not do that which he would have ordinarily done for his own satisfaction. Therefore, to act or not to act is within his control because he acts only under the direction of Krishna. This consciousness is the causeless mercy of the Lord, which the devotee can achieve in spite of his being attached to the sensual platform. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Gyan Timarandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Ari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, so here we are on chapter 2, text 64. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak today. So over here, what Krishna is doing, he's speaking to Arjuna and he's saying this lovely text, Ragadvesha vimuktestu. Can you just show me the text again? Rad Vishayan Indriyescharan Atma Vashevideyatma Prashadamadi Gachati. Thank you, Satyabhamaji. So what we can see is this attachment and aversion, this raga dvesha, this attachment and detachment, as it said, but this aversion. We have aversion and we have attachment, but this is something we need to become free from so that we can obtain the complete mercy of the Lord. This is very, very striking because we are often, maybe we could just have it to the gallery view. If that's okay, Mataji. Thank you very much. So this is very striking because we are in spiritual life and we have attachments. We have attachments and we see these attachments as blocking us from our spiritual life. But there's also aversion. And Krishna's mentioning the raga dvesha, attachment and aversion. So what is this aversion? What is it that we are averse to? So if we're averse to so many things. Now, in terms of how are we going to achieve the complete mercy of the Lord? Well, to achieve the complete mercy of the Lord, we need to be free from attachment and aversion. I remember speaking to Keshav Maharaj soon after Janakinath Prabhu left his body, and I was speaking to him about Janakinath. And when we were speaking about Janakinath, I was asking him what he was like during those last days, and um, yeah, how he was, what was his consciousness, how was he behaving, and how was he talking to people, how was he relating to everyone. And Marge was saying that actually Jankinath became free from attachment and aversion, which was very striking, because the one thing Jankinath was averse to, like, he didn't like having such a fuss over him. He didn't like people making so much of a fuss. And then and so he was kind of, he didn't like it, but then towards the end he just kind of had to surrender that, okay, people are going to have to become really become over helpful, taking him to the bathroom, etc. And Jankinath didn't like all of that, like, oh my god, I need someone to take me to the bathroom, you know. He was, but then he surrendered that actually this is something, another thing that he one of, probably the last thing he had to give up, that sense of being averse to people making such a big fuss over him. And then what can happen is, like it says, prashadam adigachati, we can attain the full mercy of the Lord. We can attain Krishna's full mercy. And we have different attachments and different aversions. I've been reflecting a lot on my internal dialogue. I've been reading Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj's Spiritual Warrior 5. It is really fascinating. It's such a fascinating book. And Maharaj has been explaining in that book how important it is to have a healthy internal dialogue. What is a healthy internal dialogue? Well, understanding actually that the way I'm responding and reacting to situations is more because of what's inside me, not because of what the other person has done. So we give that example. If you squeeze lemon juice, you get, sorry, if you squeeze a lemon, you get lemon juice. If you squeeze an orange, you get orange juice. You get what's inside. So if you squeeze a person, what will come out is what's inside them. So if someone says something to me that I don't like, if someone doesn't say something to me when I wish they did say something to me, someone ignores me, someone blanks me, someone didn't say Haribol to me, someone only gave me one pakora instead of two, you know, someone forgot to pass the arti tray round, so I didn't get to take darshan of the arti tray, anything, whatever it is, what is gonna come out is what's inside me. This is it. It's not about them, it's about what's inside me. And what's inside me is dependent on my internal dialogue. It's what is my mind saying to me? What is my mind saying to me? Can we differentiate ourselves from the mind? Can we separate ourselves from the mind, understanding we're different from the mind? And by understanding we are separate from the mind, understanding we are not the mind, we have, the mind is part of us, then we can see what is the mind saying to me. And the mind might be saying to me, oh, that person blanked you, that person doesn't like you. That person blanked you, that person doesn't like you. And we go on that and we do something with that. Yeah, actually that person doesn't like me because I'm not very likable. I'm not doing much in Krishna consciousness. I'm just a nobody in this temple. I'm not, you know, who am I in the movement? I'm no one. And yeah, I'm just rubbish, you know. And then we go on that, and the mind tells us this. And then what does the mind do next? Well, the mind might then next be, okay, can you believe such and such? It just always blanks me. Like, what's wrong with them? Like, what's like, why are they so rude? Like, how can then it's like, how can devotees be so rude? You know, we put the devotee line in. How can the devotee do that? Like, he's a devotee, you know, he's a devotee. It's like, yeah, so are we, and so are they, and we're all struggling with different things. So how can a devotee do that to me? Yeah, but if we can go deeper and think, okay, if I'm a devotee, why am I letting my mind say that to me? Why am I letting my mind say that? Why am I believing the mind? Like this rascal mind, why am I believing it? What is the purpose for me to believe the mind? The mind that gives me an option. If I'm on the edge of a cliff, the mind will say, "Hey, what will it be like to jump?" That's the mind that we are trusting. The mind will say it. The intelligence will say, "No." Why? Because we are all interested in self-preservation. Naturally, we want to look after ourselves. This is like an inherent quality of any living being. We try to, even the animals are running away from the deers are running away from the lions in the jungle for self-preservation. So similarly, we are trying self-preservation, but we're going about self-preservation in a very destructive way. We think self-preservation means if someone attacks me, I'll attack them back. They said something to me, they blanked me. They blanked me. The most important Kanchanabja. They blanked me. How dare they? Guns are out. We're firing the guns. How dare they? They don't know. They don't know. Hare Krishna. How are you doing, Prabhu? I need to talk to you. Guess what? He blanked me. You know, so rude. They're so. I don't know what. People, honestly, a devotee, can't believe it, it's a devotee. So we get really in it, you know, we get really sucked in. And what we don't do is we don't introspect enough and think, okay, why am I letting my mind tell me, why am I letting my mind tell me that I'm so unlovable, that I'm so unacceptable? Why am I letting my mind do that? Because that's what the mind is actually saying, isn't it? If we're saying that because someone blanked me, that they don't like me, then what I'm basically saying is I'm not lovable, I'm not acceptable. And because I'm not lovable and I'm not acceptable, because that's the internal dialogue that's going through us, then we're going to try our best to distract our um, uh, our need to internally grow, and we're going to distract our need to internally grow by then maybe just trying to distract ourselves by attacking that person, or just gossiping about that person, or just actually just having bad feelings towards them, just even having bad feelings towards that person. So when we are getting agitated, when we are becoming anxious and agitated by how others have treated us, we can really know full well that because the lemon juice is coming out of the lemon, what's coming out is what's inside us. Because if someone has got a healthy internal dialogue, and they get blanked, hey, that person must be in a rush, the person must be busy today. Or maybe if that person constantly blanks you, maybe that person might be going through a hard time. Hope they're okay. You know, I'm cool. Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj writes in Spiritual Warrior 5 that a healthy internal dialogue is not optional, it's a necessity for spiritual progress, for spiritual life. We need to have a healthy internal dialogue. So if we are not accepting, if we are not believing that we are lovable for for whatever reason, then we are not going to really believe that Krishna loves us, right? It's a natural understanding. I was thinking about Jankinath, and I was thinking, how did he do it? Like he had cancer, he had operation after operation, he got the cancer spread year after year, different place, different operation, another year, it was just like, how did he hang in there in this Krishna consciousness? And the thing with Jankinath was he really felt Krishna's love. He really felt Krishna's love, and he believed that Krishna loved him. because he had a very good upbringing. Jankinath's mom and dad really loved him. They really gave him a lot of love. And because Jankinath's parents gave him so much love, it was easier for him to appreciate that people can love him. And then when Krishna loved him, even at those difficult times, he could see that Krishna loved me. He could see Krishna loves me. This is Krishna. And some of us who may not have had um, an upbringing full of love, it may be authority, maybe abuse, it may be neglect, whatever it was, then what happens is when we come to our spiritual practice and we have spiritual life, then it's hard to accept that someone can love me, that someone won't neglect me, that I can trust someone. So the internal dialogue is saying, well, you can't trust anyone. Everyone is out to get you. I'm not allowed to feel upset. Sometimes we see that people, they find it hard to express emotion. Why? Because feeling something wasn't allowed. And if feeling something wasn't allowed, then now I'm a grown-up adult, I can't feel for Krishna. I can't feel for him because my feelings were neglected, my feelings were suppressed. So our internal dialogue is something that we need to work on more and more and more, because the mind, our mind, is who we associate with most. Like, it's bad association. and when we say we got bad association, when you're in bad association and you tell a devotee, what shall I do? They'll say, change your association. So if you're associating with your mind, and then you have to change your association, what you got to do? You got to change your mind. You got to uplift the mind. That's what we can do, because we need to change our association. And the mind is with us 24 hours a day. It's just there. It's just chipping away. It's going on. It's like it's going on. But we need that to be healthy. We need that to be a healthy internal dialogue. Bandhur atatmanastasya. Krishna says that actually the mind can be a friend. It can be a friend, but actually it's our greatest enemy. So we have to work on the mind so that it becomes our friend. Otherwise, it's going to be our greatest enemy. And if we allow the mind to tell us that I'm unworthy of receiving love, I won't trust anything in the Bhagavad Gita. I won't trust anything in Srimad Bhagavatam, because I won't believe it. Krishna is saying, Suridam Sarabhutanam, I am the greatest, I'm the well-wisher, I'm the best friend to all living entities. We won't believe that. We won't believe that stuff. How can we believe such a thing? How can I believe that someone is my well-wisher if my internal dialogue says no one wishes well for me? No one wants good, no one loves me, no one likes me. If that's what my mind is saying to me, I'm not going to believe that Krishna loves me. I'm not going to believe it. It's just not going to be possible. So when things are going bad, we're not going to believe that Krishna loves me. We're going to think Krishna's not there. What Krishna are you talking about? There is no Krishna today because I didn't get my pakoras. I didn't get my kachoris. I didn't get what I needed to get. But on a good day, hey, thanks, Krishna. Woohoo, thank you. And then we just carry on with our day. And then lessons come and we don't learn our lessons. So then we need a bit of suffering so that the lessons can be learnt, because it's only through suffering. It's only when you squeeze the lemon does the lemon juice come out. If you leave the lemon alone, the lemon juice the lemon just gonna stay there. The lemon just gonna stay there. We need the juice to come out. So sometimes we also need to be squeezed so that the good us, the uplifted us can start to come out. But that can only come out if that's what's inside. So it goes back to we can't blame anyone else. Our Krishna consciousness is not dependent on a supportive mom and dad and a really holistic relationship with my wife, children who are just like dying to read Krishna book every night. They're just like, oh, Papa, I just want to read Krishna book. That's the dream. That's the ideal. That's the ideal. you know. The ideal is all of this stuff, but why do we get so idealistic? Why do we get so idealistic? We get so idealistic because we are telling ourselves, unless we're perfect, we're not worthy. But Krishna doesn't say that anywhere. He's not expecting us to be perfect. Like, you know, if we're in this material world, what is natural is that we have imperfect senses, we are in illusion, we're going to make mistakes, and there's going to be cheating. It's just here. It's just there. That is it. So Krishna knows that. It's not like he doesn't know that. And because Krishna knows that, that means that Krishna loves us despite all of these things. We can't stop Krishna loving him. No, sorry, we can't stop Krishna loving us. We can't stop him loving us. We can make mistakes, we can cheat, we can do anything. Krishna's not going to stop loving us. But we believe that Krishna isn't really there. It's a nice idea that that person with the flute, you know, he's there, yeah. But then why did such and such do that to me? And why did this happen? Why did that happen? So we want to look at these interferences, we want to look at these obstacles and work on them so that we can really embrace the statements that Krishna gives. Then when he says, Aham Tvam Sarvapapebhyo Mokshayashmi Masucha, I will protect you. Don't worry. From every sinful reaction, I will protect you. Do not fear. Don't worry. He says that. There's nothing to worry about as long as you surrender to me. But because we are worried, we don't surrender. We don't fully believe he's there. We don't fully believe he's there because our internal dialogue is saying, you don't know for sure. You don't know for sure. We don't know for sure. And because we don't know for sure, let's not risk that. Let's not risk that. I remember saying to Jankinat once, Jankinat, I'm not going to say to Krishna he can do what he likes with me because I'm not sure that I really mean that. It's like, hey, catch, don't worry about it, you know. But that's the difference in faith between someone like me and someone like Jankinat. You know, I couldn't pray, still can't say, hey Krishna, you know, you know that, you know, even if you handle me roughly by your embrace or make me brokenhearted by not being present before me, you are my Lord unconditionally. I don't know. Why? Because there's still a lot to work on inside. There's still a lot to work on inside, but we can do it. We can do it if we are willing to go through the process. Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj says, if there's something, and I mentioned this last time actually, I mentioned this last time we did this call, which was name it, face it, feel it, release it. Yes, it's how to, so you name your feeling, you face the feeling, you feel the feeling, and then we can release the feeling. So what does that mean? Okay, so for me, I'll be honest with me, if someone blanks me, whether they're junior to me, whether they're a peer, whether they're a senior, if someone blanks me, something happens in my body, like I feel something. You know, I feel it. I don't know what it is, but I feel it. You know, I feel it like, and then I think, okay, so I feel it. What is it that I feel? Now I'm going to name it. Okay, I feel ignored. Okay, I'm ignored. What does it feel like? What does that do to me if I'm ignored? I feel unworthy. Okay, I'm feeling unworthy. Okay, named it, face it. Can I face the fact that right now I feel unworthy? That's the big thing. Facing that. Okay, I feel unworthy. There's the mirror. Okay, I feel unworthy. Okay, and what does that unworthiness make me feel? It makes me feel sad. You know, it actually makes me feel sad. Okay, so can I then can I then take a moment to feel the sadness? Just be with that sadness. And if I can take a moment to be with that feeling of sadness, that I'm feeling sad because because of this feeling of unworthiness, because someone has blanked me, because my internal dialogue is saying to me that I'm not worth being said hello to. That's what my internal dialogue is saying. Maybe I'm not worth a hello. And that's making me feel low. It's making me feel sad. But then if I can sit with that feeling and allow that feeling within me, then I can release it. Then I can release it. But what we do often is we do, someone blanks me, I don't name the feeling, I don't face the feeling, I don't feel the feeling, I just go and release some rubbish. I'm just ready to release some stuff that's inside, and it's not lemon juice, it's Karela juice, it's bitter stuff, you know. So yeah, it's this feeling of bitterness. How could they blank me? And then I think that, and then what I do, I put it all on them. They're the bad one. They're the bad one. They blanked me. They always blank me. Actually, every time I see them, they blank me. Oh, okay. The other thing to be careful of, and this is something I've been doing and something I need to work on, I can name it, I'm feeling sad. I can face the fact I'm sad. And then instead of then feeling and releasing, it's what I was doing, which is not right. Name it, face it, intellectualize it, right? And then suppress it, right? So the thing that was missed is feeling, because the reason I did this and do this a lot is because I always tried to avoid feeling sad as a kid and just growing up. Feeling sad was just something I didn't want to do. It wasn't a nice place. So if feeling sad wasn't a nice place, then feeling sad right now is just something I'm cautious of. So therefore, I'm going to try everything I can to avoid feeling that feeling. But the problem with that is I've named sadness, I'm facing sadness, and instead of then feeling the sadness, I intellectualize it. Okay, I'm feeling sad. And then what I do is I move on. So then it just goes back in. And then the next time it just happens again. So what it can do, it can help temporarily, but it doesn't really help me release it. But if I name it, face it, and then feel it, just be with that feeling. I'm feeling sad. And it doesn't have to be half an hour, 1 hour. It could just be a few moments, a few minutes. And then by feeling it, naturally the release will come. We'll be able to release that feeling by actually allowing our body and mind to feel it. Otherwise, it's just all what we do is spiritual bypassing. We name it, and then we're like, okay, I'm feeling sad. But anyway, you know, Krishna consciousness is joyfully performed, and we're going to go out on Harinam, and we put that all back in. And we'll go out on Harinam, and that will be great. And then we'll come home, and then we might lash out at someone. And then we're thinking, I went on Harinam all day, and I'm still getting angry. Does this process even work? Yeah, the process works, but it's a process. And the process works if we work internally. It's not just externally, I'm going to go and do a Krishna conscious activity. Prabhupada didn't name the society, the International Society for Krishna Activities. He didn't. He didn't name it. He could have, because a lot of Krishna activities were going on, like a lot. I mean, the whole movement was spreading around the world. But he named the society the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. That's what he named the society, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And we can only become Krishna conscious if we become conscious first. So spiritual bypassing is when we are trying to become Krishna conscious without being conscious. It is not going to work. It's like it's like if you go on a run, right? You go for a run and you come back and you just start chanting. You're out of breath and you're chanting. So you're in the mode of passion and you're trying to practice your spiritual life. Or you're falling asleep and you've got like 7 rounds left. You know, we're doing all of that stuff. It's not going to work, you know. And then it's like, oh, at least I did my rounds. Okay, yeah, you did. Well done, Haribol. But the reality is, are we becoming Krishna conscious? So becoming Krishna conscious means first become conscious. conscious. I'm going to chant my rounds. I'm going to connect with Krishna. And then we'll practice. And then when we're conscious, we can be Krishna conscious. So if we are, and then therefore, are we conscious of our internal dialogue? Are we conscious of what the mind is saying to us? Are we conscious if the mind is telling me I'm unacceptable? Are we conscious if the mind is telling me I'm not worthy of love? Are we conscious of these things? And if we're not conscious, we'll project on everyone else. Why isn't my partner accepting me? Partner's not accepting me because actually I'm not accepting myself. That's what's really happening. And then we're looking for acceptance. Who from? An imperfect person. We're looking for all these things, an imperfect person in an imperfect world. And we're looking for perfection. How? It doesn't really make sense. Logically, that doesn't make sense. What does make sense is looking for perfection from Krishna. He's the source of perfection. He is perfect. He is the source of all perfection. So if we want to experience something higher, then we need to connect with him. We need to connect with him. How can we connect with him? Be conscious first. So what is it saying to me? And once we understand what the mind is saying to me, so journaling is a great way, because if we journal, if we write, Guru Maharaj does this, he sends out all, he publishes his diaries. It's so nice. If we read some of his diaries, it's like, wow. And just by doing that, we can separate the mind and senses from our intelligence and our ego and the soul. By journaling, so the mind and our senses is like our impulsive self. That's our impulsive self. The intelligence is our reflective self. If we just live life without introspection, it's all combined like this. It's all together. Our reflective self, our impulsive self, and generally it's just impulsive. But if we have daily introspection or regular introspection through things like journaling, what happens is we create a distance between our reflective self and our impulsive self. And then we're able to see the mind and what it's doing, and we can observe it. Even when we're chanting Hare Krishna, we may not be always able to observe and hear the holy name. But what we can do is hear that actually my mind has gone off, and we become an observer of the mind. And just even by observing that the mind is wandering, being an observer of the mind, by regularly journaling, we understand that we are not the mind. And when we understand we are not the mind, and that the mind is separate, and the mind needs to be cared for, needs to be uplifted, needs to be nourished, and so we get some healthy internal dialogue, then what happens? Then what naturally happens? What naturally happens is that the intelligence can observe the mind. And if we can observe the mind, we'll be able to think before we act. We'll be able to think. We'll be able to observe that what my mind is saying to me right now isn't healthy. And I don't need to play into the mind right now. I don't need to do that. So in summary, we can say that Krishna, he wants us, we want him. We can't get him until we know ourselves better. So we want to be conscious before we're Krishna conscious. And how can we become conscious? By trying to improve our internal dialogue. And by improving our internal dialogue, then only can we really nourish ourselves spiritually. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Jai. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Attachment and aversion taken to the next level with tips and formulas you have given us, which you have already tried. So this is a really, really good class and funny as well. Amazing. Loved it. Thank you. Devotees, if you have any questions, comments, realization, anything actually, your experiences, please go ahead. Yes, Silpesh Prabhu.
Hari Bol.
Hey, Hare Krishna, Silpesh Prabhu. Hare Bol.
I hear you, man. I hear you. I hear you. Gosh, yes, I'm reading Spiritual Warrior 5 as well, Making Your Mind Your Best Friend. Amazing book, very helpful. I've experienced every state of mind you can imagine. And that's actually what brought me to Krishna consciousness. And Krishna consciousness and the association of devotees, I would say, has saved me. It's given me back my life in many ways. I'm still on this journey. It's been a few years now. And we became very, very close to some devotees. They were like family. And just as you've experienced now, they completely blank us. And yes, you go through a lot of emotions, a lot of hurt. And we spoke to our seniors about this, like my mentor and some other seniors. And apparently everybody goes through this journey in Krishna consciousness with devotees. Like, they can be your saving grace and like your worst enemy at the same time. And, I've been told it's because as a devotee, we tend to associate more with devotees than other people. So the purification will come from a devotee. And our seniors have told us they've all been through the same thing. And, this is part of Krishna consciousness. We're still in the material world. Just because somebody is a devotee doesn't mean they're perfect. And, we all have to go through a lot of stuff like this. But yeah, Krishna sends you on a lot of roller coaster rides, but at the same time, he gives you the answers through other devotees. That's what I found. And I've asked Keshav Maharaj the same question, like, when we talked about this yesterday on yesterday's call. We talked about emotions and setting boundaries. And, when you're helping other devotees a lot, it can take a lot out of you. And Keshav Maharaj said to me, you need to build your relationship with Krishna first. Once you build that relationship, then I think you have the strength to deal with everything. Yeah, I think that's what I wanted to say.
Jay, thank you so much, Silpesh. Always nice to hear your thoughts, your reflections. Yeah, it's very true. This can happen. Devotees, it's we can't forget. We should always remember that our devotee association and the purpose of devotee association really is they link us to Krishna and they help us get closer to Krishna, and it's in a very wholesome, loving way. And sometimes the devotees that have cared for us in the past may ignore us right now, and that may be something to do with them and something to do with us. That might be there. But we remember that the purpose of the association is to get closer to Krishna. So if that association no longer is going to help us get closer to Krishna, we have to learn to be able to move on, rather than staying stuck. And yeah, we can always remind ourselves that Krishna is that person, and devotees are helping us. They're willing us on to get us there, either directly in a positive way or indirectly when it's negative, because that's helping our internal growth. If we take it in that way, if we allow the medicine to work in that way. So thank you for sharing, Silpesh, and thank you for being so open. Really appreciate it. Hare Krishna.
Thanks, Silpesh Prabhu. Yes, Namrata Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. And wonderful class as usual. Lot of practical tips and a lot of practical points with humor. So thank you for the class. I think after Amog Leela, I'm looking forward for your class. Amog Leela Prabhu is hilarious. After
He's
that,
so
you are.
funny.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask, when we talk about inferiority complex, many of the people have this, I don't know, we can call this as a nature inferiority complex, but is this aversion? Can we categorize this in aversion?
Can inferiority complex be categorized as an aversion? Is that your question?
Yes.
Can you expand on that a little bit, Mataji? In what way do you want to categorize it, an aversion?
Like if we are talking about a person having inferiority complex, the person always see themselves lower.
Okay. Yeah. So they're averse to themselves.
Yeah. So is this a kind of aversion, and like how do we deal with such kind of people who are who always have inferiority complex within them?
Yeah, thank you. So how to deal with people that have an inferiority complex? Yeah, it is a type of aversion. It does sound like the people are averse to themselves. So like when Krishna is saying raga dvesha vimuktes, to be free from attachment and aversion. So if we go back to the example I was saying about feeling blanked and not being able to feel sadness, then what is it that I'm averse to? I'm averse to that feeling. I'm averse to having that feeling of sadness. So similarly, it seems here that someone is just averse to themselves when they're thinking, they're averse to who they are. Some people are just attached to who they are, like I'm so great, I'm wonderful. But some people can just become averse to who they are, so yeah, it can be. And I think the second part of your question was how to deal with people that are like that. Is that your question? So I think the first thing to understand is, is it that we are struggling to deal with them because it's really getting to us? Or is it because we want to is it just purely because we want to help them? If it's because it's really getting to us, then we need to do some introspection, because maybe some of that is inside us, this inferiority. Because if someone else's fault or someone else's characteristic or behavior really starts to eat away at us or gets under our skin, then we can understand that we have this ourselves. So that's the first thing to look at. And then if it's not that, and we just really want to see, okay, how can I really help someone? I think the way to help them is really to try and help them understand what their mind is saying to them. And once they understand that their mind is separate from themselves, and they understand that their mind is saying that to them, then remind them that this dialogue needs to change. And what can it change to? Well, Krishna loves us. There's nothing we can do that can stop Krishna loving us. And why not just accept that Krishna really does love me? Just because we can't experience love, because we may have had a tough time experiencing love in our life, maybe we've been heartbroken in the past, or anything like that has happened. If that has happened in the past, that shouldn't block us now from accepting Krishna's love, but we need to become conscious of that. So this is what we can try and, I guess with someone like this, whoever's like this, it's taking them on a journey from understanding what their mind is saying to them, helping them become conscious, and then and at the same time helping them become Krishna conscious. So it's kind of like taking them on a journey. It's not always the right answer to say, get over it, Prabhu. It's not always we're in Krishna consciousness, get over it. I think we need to be empathetic, understand them, really try and understand what they're going through from their perspective, in their shoes. How does it feel for them? And then slowly, according to the person, we take them on this journey. Hope that makes some sense. Does that make sense?
Yes. Thank you. I think the two categories you mentioned were again wonderful. That first thing, we have to understand that are we judging them because we have a problem towards them, or do we really want to help them? So that was one point I really liked. And again, the to make them to make the transition of their journey towards Krishna consciousness from self consciousness is a wonderful answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thanks, Namrata Mataji. Yes, Revati Mataji, please go ahead.
Yeah. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for the very nice class. I have a question about, it's a very important point you mentioned, like feeling sadness. So instead of facing it, we just try to suppress it. And you also mentioned the solution. Instead of suppressing it, we have to name it and feel it, then release it. So could you please a little bit explain more on that, how to release that feeling? Because a lot of times I feel like it's hard for me to release that feeling. I hold on to that feeling, and at certain level, it really disturbs.
Yeah. So if I think what happened, thank you, Mataji, for the question. I think what happens is if we don't allow ourselves to actually feel the feeling, then we can't release it. So it's kind of like I've named it and faced it, and then I want to release it. Name, face, release. We want to go name, face, release. But if we don't take time to feel it and allow ourselves to feel it, then we can't release it. So it's like, if I'm feeling sad, allow yourself to be sad. It's, like allowing yourself to be, if you're feeling hurt, allow yourself to feel hurt. Take time with that. The problem is, especially for me, it's like every time there's sadness, I want to do, it's like survival mode. I know sadness, I would say I'm conditioned that sadness means lack of survival. So because I'm conditioned in that way, I'm trying whatever I can to not have to feel it. I'm trying whatever I can to not feel it. But because I'm trying whatever I can to not feel it, I'm suppressing it in without realizing. So naming it is good. Name it, face it, feel it, release it. Naming it is good. Facing it is good. But we've got to allow ourselves to feel what we're feeling, to actually feel it. Just be with that feeling for some time. It's like when people try, and if we've lost someone close to us, someone very close to us has passed away, and we just try and forget that it's actually happening, or not even accept that it's actually happening, then what happens is, after that person has passed away, they've gone, then if we don't allow ourselves time to grieve, then we can't really move on. We can become distracted, but then the pain will just keep coming back. So similarly, if there's a feeling, just allow ourselves to feel that sadness. And what it sounded like from when you spoke there, Mataji, it sounded like you're naming it, facing it, and then trying to skip the feeling it and go straight to releasing it. But the actual feeling it is what will help release it. It's like feeling it is the release. You feel it in your body, you'll feel it in your, and then it will just release. It will happen just through the process of allowing the feeling in. Does that make sense?
Yes, Prabhuji, maybe it's a practical application. I can try that. So naming it means we have to identify the problem exactly and experience that feeling. Then we have to, the releasing is naturally happens when you start feeling it.
Yeah. So naming is identifying it, facing it is accepting it, feeling it is allowing it, and then we release it.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, and I like that point which you said, before becoming Krishna conscious, we have to be conscious about ourselves. Yeah, that really helps. We have to really be conscious about ourselves. Yeah. And sorry if I can ask one more question.
Sure.
Yeah. Like a situation comes, like, now that, like, we always have the feeling, okay, now we are in this association. We want to be Krishna conscious. We want to give love to everyone. So with that mood, we go. We try to interact with people, and when we don't get that feelings, that positive things, even though you're trying to be nice to them, they are not accepting that love. Instead, we are getting different vibrations, and we get discouraged, and we get sad, and also we feel like sometimes we think, oh, okay, is something like I still have to work on myself, or is something I'm not doing right, like that. So how should we analyze these situations? We go with pure intentions, but we're not getting a proper.
I think with this, so you're saying that when we are when we're trying our best to interact in a nice way, in a loving way, in an engaging way, we're bringing our best self to the community. We're trying to give love to the community, but then we're not, the reciprocation doesn't come in such a positive way. And then when that happens, we feel somewhat dejected. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
Prabhu.
Yeah. So what comes to mind is that first thing is, if we are giving love, if we are giving happiness, and if we're doing this in the mode of goodness, then it's like charity in the mode of goodness. It's done without expectation of return. So similarly, when we are acting nicely and being loving and being kind and exhibiting the qualities of a devotee, it shouldn't be with the expectation that that will come back to me in a certain way. It'll be nice because that's how Vaishnav interactions are meant to be or should be, but it's not always the case that we experience that. So one thing is that if we remain loving and kind, I mean, I'll give you one example. There was one Mataji, for about an older Mataji, for about maybe 9 or 10 years. She was upset with something I did at the temple. She was upset with something I did. And I would always try, and even after, and she blasted me at the time, like 9 or 10 years ago. She told me, like, you shouldn't do this. Da, 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 da. I got the source, and then afterwards, I still tried to talk to her. But then, for years, it's like I'd talk to her. She'd try her best not to say Haribol to me. But years went going, and I just kept saying, whenever I see her, I'd still say Haribol, and then one year, I think it was just in 2021. So maybe the Kartik time in 2021, we were going to the temple all the time, and then at one point she just started talking to me, and I was thinking, and I didn't say anything about, oh, you haven't been talking to me all this time, or I didn't mention anything. But what I realized is actually just by being nice and by being kind, and I never expected her to even actually say it. So after some time, I was just like, at the beginning, it really affected me. I remember I even called one devotee up, how could this Mataji still be like this? I want to say something. I was like, she even, I was just like, she even blanked my daughter. My daughter was just born. Like, she said, what's my baby ever done to her? I was like, but then years went by, and I just thought, I'm still going to be nice. I'm still going to just say Haribol. And now whenever I see her, she talks to me like there was nothing, like nothing happened, So one thing is just by continuing to be that person, because why should I give someone else the power? Why should I give someone else the power to define me? How I am is up to me. But if I'm handing over that power to someone else, I'm basically saying my happiness depends on you. My happiness depends on whether you are going to say Hare Krishna back to me. My happiness is going to depend on whether you're going to give me a hug when I want to give you a hug. My happiness is going to depend on whether we're going to smile and sing Hare Krishna together while we're chopping the vegetables in the temple kitchen, whatever it is. But my happiness shouldn't depend on that. My happiness comes from my relationship with Krishna. My happiness comes from my own internal dialogue. My happiness is within me. And I want to exhibit that happiness to everyone. And if some people don't want to receive it, that's up to them. But we want to, any tension there is, actually, after some time, we can kill it with kindness. We can kill tension with kindness. Actually, it's possible to kill it with kindness. It's possible. But if it doesn't happen, it's not for us to, it shouldn't be for us to become dependent on that, because that's not our philosophy. We're not saying depend on another conditioned soul to become happy. It's like even when two people get married, and if two people get married wanting the other person to fill all the gaps in their own life, and it doesn't happen, it just leads to explosion. It just leads to such a misunderstanding and explosion. So it's recommended that two people who get married, they should be as much wholesome, as much internally satisfied with their own life, so that when they're bringing to a relationship, they're being able to serve each other. Otherwise, we're just looking to receive and not being able to give wholeheartedly. So similarly with our friends and other devotees in the community, we do our best. Krishna can see everything, and let's not give anyone else that power over us. You know, that's what comes to mind. I hope it makes sense.
Yes, Rob, very important point. You should not give anybody else a chance to, pinpoint on us and define us. We should not depend on others. Yeah, that's really something I need to practice. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. See, it's this in our community, we have devotees who have very soft hearts. But we also need to have a thick skin. You know, we also need, so we're soft-hearted, but we need to have thick skin. So soft-hearted, we give love, we serve, yes. Thick skin, don't take the illusion so seriously. You know, these things are going to come. People will, it's Kali Yuga. It's going to be like that, but we can't take it too seriously.
Yes,
Thank you,
Prabhu.
Prabhu.
Thank you so much.
Silpesh Prabhu, is it okay if I take Scarlett Mataji's question first? Yeah, Scarlett Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, thank you for wonderful. I got to have 2 lectures with you today, one in manner and one now. So I thank you for it.
The same lecture. I just said the same stuff.
No, it's not the same. The other one was Srimad Bhagavatam. It was not the Bhagavad Gita. So it's two different was.
Yeah.
What I wonder is, I'm new in this movement, and unfortunately, I have experienced a lot of power playing. You know what I mean? Power playing. Because I said so, everybody has to obey me, and that's it. And even to get chastised for something that one didn't do anything wrong, did for Krishna, for the center, for the deities, but still get chastised. How to understand that? And is it okay? Do you think yes, it's okay, just close your eyes, don't care, just continue. You know what I mean? It's difficult. I'm sorry to say that. I'm new in this movement, and I'm so sorry I'm not still that as controlled in my mind, as learned, so that I can say, yes, I can do it. I have to do it. I have to consider. I'm sorry to say that it affects me. That so much affect me that I don't want to go there, because I don't want to experience it. I'm so sorry to say that. How to do it?
Thank you, Mataji. Yeah, so when someone is chastising us, having a go at us, even though we've not done anything wrong, is that right? And does it just mean I have to one day just be able to say yes, whatever you want? I think the real answer to this is, firstly, that
and I'm sorry to say that it's not me who has got chastised. It was not me. It was 2 other senior who has been in movement in many, many years. So this was not me. So just to say that, it was not me, but I saw it.
Sure. So I think with this, I think with these situations, we can't really change someone else. It's like, what can we can't change someone else, but we have intelligence. Becoming Krishna conscious doesn't mean we stop being intelligent. Actually, we're meant to spiritualize our intelligence, make our intelligence as powerful as can be through spirituality. So therefore, if someone is doing something that's obviously unjust, how can we ever say that that's the right thing? How can we ever do that? No, we cannot do that. And like you said, if it's a power trip or whatever it is, then that's their relationship with Krishna. That's something that they have to fix. And what we can do is, depending on, and every situation is individual, but we can understand that actually this person isn't behaving appropriately. But it doesn't mean we hate the person. It doesn't mean we have to have negative feelings towards that person, because that person themselves is another soul who obviously needs some love and help, you know. But we might not be the right person to give it to them. We might not be the right person to give that love and help to them. But by no means, just because they're in a position of authority, does it mean that they are correct just because they have that position. Having a position is not a reason to treat others badly, because it doesn't say anywhere in the Shastra to treat anyone badly. It just doesn't say it. Krishna regretfully punishes the living entities. Regretfully punishes. That means just like a parent doesn't want to, you probably heard this example in the morning, just like the parent doesn't want to punish the child, but the parent punishes the child maybe to help the child learn. So similarly, Krishna doesn't want to punish us, but sometimes Krishna puts us in situations so we can learn and we can grow. So if we can take this, if we're on the receiving end of something, how can we, what does Krishna want me, what does Krishna want me to learn, and how does Krishna want me to react? And when we see it like this, we can see it in a Krishna conscious way. What does Krishna want me to learn, and how does Krishna want me to react? And it doesn't mean, and just because we hear Trinadapi Sunichena Tarodapi Sishna, it doesn't mean that tolerating abuse is what it means by being tolerant. Because tolerating abuse just means I'm giving the perpetrator, I'm giving the not just power, I'm giving them permission to do this again. I'm basically telling them, this is the way you can treat me. And if I'm telling them this is the way you can treat me, it's not good for them, because they'll carry on treating others in that way. And it's not good for you, because you're going to be involved in such interaction. So sometimes the Krishna conscious thing to do is not to accept such abuse. It's like if there was a marriage and the husband was beating the wife, or the wife was beating the husband, you're not going to say, oh Prabhu, just tolerate. You're not going to say that. You're not going to say that. You're going to say, this is not acceptable. This is not acceptable. And then by standing up for yourself in a very mature way, not in an emotional, erratic way, in a mature way, just let them know what you can accept and what you cannot accept. You know, and you can.
In that case, unfortunately, those who got this experience, they are just leaving. They are just leaving the country, unfortunately. And I love them. They are wonderful, wonderful devotees. But unfortunately, they're just
Which country are you in, Mataji?
Sweden.
Sweden.
I live in Sweden. Yes.
You're from Iran, but you live in Sweden.
Yes, I was born in Iran, but since 41 years ago, I live in Sweden. Yes.
Wow, I'm 41 years old, so my whole life you've been.
Yes.
Well.
Yes. You are in the same age of my son.
Oh, Jai. So I can call you mother.
Yes, of course. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Scarlett Mataji. Thank you. Silpesh Prabhu, please go ahead.
I wanted to ask, when we talk about feeling the emotion, just feel it, sometimes it's very difficult to just witness that emotion, and we get caught up in it. So it fuels the fire even more, and it can create more like anxiety or depression. So how do we work through that process?
So we're feeling something, and by being with that feeling, it creates more depression. It creates more anxiety. I think what happens at that point is we're not really feeling the feeling, we're just listening to the mind. I think we think we're feeling the feeling, but I think what we're doing is we're sitting and listening to the mind. We're sitting and listening to that internal dialogue. And we're not really giving ourselves space to even name the feeling. We're just listening to the mind tell us we're useless. But useless isn't a feeling. Useless is a label. You know, so what is the feeling behind that? And once we get to the feeling, then we can be with the feeling. But actually, if we sit and just listen to the mind tell us how rubbish we are, how life is really bad, how this person's like this, that person's not fair, they've got everything and I've got nothing, and what we're doing is we're listening to a very unkind mind. And listening to an unkind mind, like it says, listening to the worst enemy. Imagine knowing that the person right next to you is your worst enemy. Like, you'd get scared, you know, you'd actually be fearful. And actually, this is the mind that's not controlled. So therefore, at that point when we're feeling, or when something's happened, rather than try and identify the difference between what is the mind saying to me and what am I actually feeling. What am I feeling because of what the mind is saying to me? That's okay. But go behind the mind and see what is the feeling, and then sit with that feeling. And that feeling is a feeling we're allowed to experience. If you're feeling sad, that's okay. If a child is told not to feel sad or not to cry, they'll grow up being very suppressed. And then here we are in our adult bodies, but because we become conditioned to so many things, we are not able to sit with feelings. So I would say try and really understand what is the feeling and what is just the mind giving us a hard time.
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense.
Jai, thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabhu. I think we can close the call now because it's been an hour, more than an hour. Yeah, is that okay, Kanchanabja Prabhu?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much. All
Thank you
glories to
so
Srila
much for your
Prabhupada, all
association.
glories to
Yeah.
Guru Maharaj.
Thank you very much for today. 2 times.